The stars looked different from the command deck of the Vexarian warship. General Zar Thol stood with his 4 arms clasped behind his back, his scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of the ship's monitors. For 300 years, he had served the Vexarian hegemony, conquering 17 worlds and bringing countless species under their rule. But this mission felt different. "General, we've entered Earth's solar system," reported his second-in-command, Officer Kraz. "The third planet shows signs of advanced civilization, but primitive space technology." Zar Thol nodded. "Perfect. Another easy conquest for our records." The hegemony had discovered Earth just months ago. Their long-range scans showed a planet rich with resources and populated by a species that had barely reached their own moon. The humans, as they called themselves, would surely respond like all other lesser species, with fear, panic, and quick surrender when faced with superior Vexarian might. "Prepare the diplomatic intimidation squad," Zar Thol ordered. "We'll follow standard first contact protocol. Show of force, then offers of submission and protection." 3 days later, 5 Vexarian ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, targeting a large military exercise happening in the Pacific Ocean. Their intelligence suggested this would be the perfect opportunity to demonstrate their power. Multiple human nations had gathered their forces in one place. The Vexarian ships hovered above the blue waters where human naval vessels floated like tiny toys. Zar Thol watched the monitors as his soldiers prepared for the intimidation display. "Sir, something is wrong," said Officer Kraz, confusion in his voice. "The humans aren't running." Zar Thol moved closer to the screen. What he saw made his inner eyelids blink rapidly in surprise. Instead of scattering in panic, the human soldiers were forming orderly patterns on their ship decks. Some readied weapons, but none fired. Others simply stood in formation, waiting. "Impossible," whispered Zar Thol. "They should be terrified." He watched as a small human vessel separated from a larger ship and approached the Vexarian landing craft. A single human stood at its front, wearing blue clothing with strange symbols. The human carried no visible weapons. "Magnify that vessel," ordered Zar Thol. The screen zoomed in on the human's face. It showed no fear, only alert curiosity and calm determination. This wasn't the expression of a being about to surrender. "Sir, the human is requesting communication," reported the communications officer. "Granted," said Zar Thol, his curiosity overcoming standard protocol. The screen flickered, and the human's voice filled the command deck. "This is Lieutenant Ryan Collins of the United States Navy. On behalf of Earth, I welcome you to our world and request your peaceful intentions." The human's voice didn't shake. His eyes didn't show panic. This was not how first contact usually went. Zar Thol decided to go down himself. Against the warnings of his officers, he boarded a shuttle and descended to meet the single human vessel. As his craft touched the water, he saw more clearly the human ships surrounding them. On their decks stood rows of disciplined soldiers, weapons ready but not firing. When Zar Thol stepped onto the deck of the small human boat, Lieutenant Collins extended his hand. A gesture Zar Thol's research indicated was a peaceful greeting. The general hesitated, then extended one of his 4 hands. "I am General Zar Thol of the Vexarian hegemony," he said through his translator. "Your people show unusual courage." Collins smiled. "We're just doing our jobs, General. Now perhaps you could explain why your warships are hovering over our military exercise." Zar Thol felt something he had never experienced in 3 centuries of military service: respect for a species he had planned to conquer. These humans didn't cower. They didn't beg. They stood ready, organized, and somehow seemed more curious than afraid. "Perhaps," Zar Thol said slowly, "we should talk properly. Your species is not what we expected." As he returned to his ship that evening, Zar Thol couldn't stop thinking about the calm in the human soldier's eyes. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen anything like it. These humans were different, and he needed to understand why. The next morning, Zarful stood on a grassy hill overlooking the human military training ground. After yesterday's unexpected first contact, the Earth leaders had invited him to watch their soldiers train. He had accepted, curious to learn more about these strange beings who showed no fear. "General, this way please," said Lieutenant Collins, who had been assigned as his guide. "The training exercise is about to begin." They walked to a viewing platform where several human military officials waited. Zarful noticed they all stood straight, eyes forward, hands clasped behind their backs. Their posture reminded him of his own soldiers. "Today you'll see regular training for our Marine Corps," explained Collins. "Nothing special, just everyday drills." Zarful nodded, his inner eyelids blinking in acknowledgement. On his world, they would have arranged a special display to impress a foreign visitor. These humans were either very confident or very foolish. A whistle blew, and 30 human soldiers appeared at the edge of a muddy field. They wore heavy green clothing and carried large packs on their backs. "Staff Sergeant Olivia Martinez leads this squad," Collins said, pointing to a short female human at the front of the group. Zarful studied her with interest. Female Vexarians were never soldiers. Their bodies were not designed for combat. Yet this human female looked as capable as any male. The whistle blew again, and Martinez shouted something to her soldiers. They began running through the mud, crawling under wire barriers, climbing tall walls, and jumping across wide ditches, all while carrying their heavy gear. "How much weight are they carrying?" asked Zarful. "About 80 pounds, replied Collins. "Standard field pack." Zarful's eyes widened. 80 pounds was nearly half the body weight of some of these smaller humans. His own soldiers could not carry such loads without mechanical assistance. After the obstacle course, the humans moved to a shooting range. Zarful watched as they hit distant targets with surprising accuracy. Even more impressive was how quickly they reloaded their weapons and adapted when their commanders called out changing scenarios. "Now they'll demonstrate adaptation training," Collins explained as the field was quickly rearranged. A human officer, Captain Alan Shepard, Collins informed him, led his team through a simulation where they had to cross enemy territory, locate a target, and retrieve it. During the exercise, the human commanders kept changing the rules, adding unexpected problems. A bridge suddenly became destroyed. Communications failed. A team member was declared injured. Each time, the humans adapted instantly. They built a new crossing from fallen logs. They created hand signals when they couldn't talk. They made a stretcher from jackets and branches for their injured comrade. Zarful felt his 4 hands tighten into fists. Vexarian soldiers followed orders perfectly, but when plans changed, they often faltered. They needed new commands. These humans thought for themselves. "How long does it take to train a soldier like this?" Zarful asked. "Basic training is just 10 weeks, Collins replied, "though these Marines have about 2 years of experience." 10 weeks. Zarful could not hide his shock. And their lifespan. Average human lives about 75 years. Zarful fell silent. Vexarians lived for 500 years. Their soldiers trained for at least 20 years before seeing combat. Yet these short-lived humans became effective warriors in mere weeks. As the exercise ended, Zarful watched Sergeant Martinez gather her tired squad. Despite exhaustion, mud, and sweat, they stood at attention, ready for more. "Would you like to meet them, General?" Collins asked. Zarful nodded and followed him down to the field. As he approached, the human soldiers looked at him with the same calm curiosity he had seen yesterday. No fear, only assessment and readiness. "Welcome to Earth, sir," Sergeant Martinez said, extending her hand just as Collins had done. Zarful took her small hand in his large one. He felt the calluses on her palm, the strength in her grip. "Your soldiers are impressive, Sergeant," he said truthfully. Martinez smiled. "Thank you, sir. This was just a light training day." A light day. Zarful's mind raced with new thoughts. He had much to learn about these humans. Zarthol adjusted the strange human clothing he had been given to wear. The formal dinner was about to begin, and he felt uncomfortable in the stiff blue uniform. His 4 arms stretched the fabric in unusual ways, but the human tailors had done their best. The dining hall glowed with soft light from hanging glass objects the humans called chandeliers. Long tables covered in white cloth held small decorative plants and burning sticks that gave off pleasant smells. Zarthol had never seen a military facility look so welcoming. "General, welcome," said a tall human female with short gray hair. "I'm Colonel Patricia Winters, United States Air Force. I'll be your host this evening." Zarthol placed his upper right hand over his chest in the Vexarian greeting. "The honor is mine, Colonel." She guided him to a table where several high-ranking human officers waited. Zarthol noted that these leaders came from different countries, yet they sat together comfortably. On his world, different factions rarely mixed. "Tell me, General," Colonel Winters said as servers brought strange-looking food to the table, "what made the Vexarian hegemony interested in Earth?" Zarthol hesitated. The truth that they saw Earth as an easy conquest now seemed both unwise and incorrect to share. "We seek to understand all intelligent life," he said carefully. "Your planet appeared both advanced and isolated. A curious combination." Colonel Winters smiled slightly. "And what have you learned about us so far?" "That humans are full of surprises," Zarthol admitted. "Your soldiers train differently than ours. They think independently yet work as one unit. We believe in both structure and individual initiative," Winters explained. "A soldier who can think for themselves is more valuable than one who only follows orders." Zarthol picked up a small fork, copying the humans around him. He tasted the food, some kind of meat in a rich sauce. The flavors were complex and delightful, unlike the simple nutrition pills Vexarians consumed. "What do your people fight for, Colonel?" he asked. "Territory. Resources." Winters put down her glass. "Sometimes, but more often for ideas." "Ideas?" Zarthol's inner eyelids blinked rapidly in confusion. "Freedom. Justice. The right of people to choose their own path." Her eyes met his. "What do Vexarians fight for?" The question stunned him. In 300 years, no one had asked him this. "For the growth of the hegemony. For order throughout the galaxy. And do your people choose this order, or is it imposed?" Before Zarthol could answer, a loud voice interrupted from the other end of the table. One of his junior officers, Meknar, was arguing with a human. "Your species is physically weak," Meknar said loudly. "In proper gravity, your bones would snap like twigs." The room fell silent. Zarthol prepared to stand and discipline his officer for the insult. But before he could move, the human, a broad-shouldered man with dark skin, laughed. "Maybe so," the human said cheerfully, "but we make up for it with really good snacks." He pushed a plate toward Meknar. "Try the mozzarella sticks." Other humans joined in the laughter. Even Meknar looked confused, not knowing how to respond to an insult being turned into a joke. Slowly, the tension dissolved. "That was Sergeant Joe Williams," Colonel Winters explained quietly. "He just prevented a diplomatic incident with cheese." Zarthol watched in amazement as the humans continued eating and talking, the brief conflict already forgotten. In Vexarian culture, such an insult would demand formal apology or combat. As the evening continued, Zarthol observed the humans closely. They told stories, laughed often, and asked him genuine questions about his world. They seemed truly interested, not just gathering intelligence. Later, walking back to his quarters, Zarthol felt strangely troubled. The hegemony had always taught that other species were naturally inferior, that Vexarian rule brought them necessary structure and advancement. But these humans didn't need Vexarian guidance. They had built a complex society with rich culture, effective military forces, and something his people lacked: the ability to find humor even in tense situations. For the first time in his long military career, Zarthol wondered if the hegemony might be wrong. The alarm blared through Zarthol's quarters, jerking him from sleep. Red lights flashed along the walls of his room on the human military base. "General." Officer Kraz's voice came through his communicator. "There's been an incident. Captain Dren has taken the scout ship and attacked a human research vessel." Zarthol jumped to his feet, all four hands reaching for his uniform. "Who authorized this?" "No one, sir. He acted alone with a small group of loyal soldiers. They believe our approach to humans has been too soft." Zarthol rushed to the command center the humans had allowed him to set up. The screen showed a terrible scene. A Vexarian scout ship was firing on a small human research vessel. Smoke poured from the human ship, and escape pods launched from its sides. "Open communication with Captain Dren immediately," Zarthol ordered. The captain's face appeared on screen, his scales darkened with battle excitement. "General, I am doing what you should have done days ago. These humans must learn their place in the galaxy. Stand down immediately." Zarthol shouted. "This is not authorized." "The hegemony would be ashamed of your weakness," Dren replied before cutting the connection. The door to the command center burst open. Lieutenant Collins and Colonel Winters rushed in with several human soldiers. "Your people are attacking our civilian scientists," Winters said, her voice cold but controlled. "Explain." "A rogue captain," Zarthol said quickly. "Acting against orders. I am trying to stop him." Collins moved to a communication panel. "U.S. Horizon. This is Lieutenant Collins. What's your status?" A strained human voice responded. "Research vessel Polaris under attack. We've evacuated most crew to lifeboats. Engine room hit badly. Request immediate assistance." "Help is coming," Collins assured them. "Horizon is 8 minutes out." Zarthol watched the screens in horror as Dren's ship circled for another attack run. "My scout ship is fast but lightly armed. Your vessels should be able to." He stopped mid-sentence as a new ship appeared on the screen. It moved with shocking speed toward the battle scene. "That's the Horizon," Collins explained. "One of our destroyer-class ships." Zarthol stared in disbelief. The human ship was closing the distance 3 times faster than should be possible for a vessel its size. His military analysis said human ships were slow and clumsy. On screen, the Horizon positioned itself between Dren's ship and the damaged research vessel. A calm voice came through the communication system. "Vexarian vessel, this is Commander Daniel Russell of the U.S. Horizon. You are firing on unarmed civilians. Cease fire immediately, or we will respond with appropriate force." Dren's ship fired instead, its energy weapons glancing off the Horizon's shields. What happened next stunned Zarthol. The human ship released a precise volley of missiles that disabled the Vexarian ship's weapons and engines without destroying it. The attack was surgical, controlled, and showed a level of restraint Zarthol had never witnessed in combat. "Vexarian vessel secured," Commander Russell reported. "We're moving to rescue survivors from the research ship." The room fell silent. Zarthol felt all eyes on him. "I expected your ship to destroy Dren completely," he finally said. Colonel Winters raised an eyebrow. "Why would we do that? Your captain and crew are now prisoners who will face justice. Destroying them would waste potential intelligence and needlessly escalate conflict." Zarthol struggled to understand. In Vexarian military doctrine, enemies were eliminated, not captured. Mercy was seen as weakness. "General Zarthol," Colonel Winters said formally, "our leaders want to speak with you about this incident. A car is waiting outside." Zarthol nodded, expecting the worst. The humans would surely demand all Vexarians leave Earth immediately. Perhaps they would declare war. He wouldn't blame them. As he followed Collins outside, Zarthol prepared himself for the end of his career and possibly his life. After such an attack, Vexarians would have demanded blood. He wondered what the humans would demand instead. The meeting with human leaders had not gone as Zarthol expected. Instead of punishment, They offered understanding. Instead of war, they suggested peace with conditions. The rogue captain would face justice, but relations would continue. Now, 3 days later, Zarthol found himself in a strange place, a human city during what they called time off. This is downtown Seattle, Lieutenant Collins explained as they walked along busy streets. I thought you might want to see how regular humans live when they're not in uniform. Zarthol's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, trying to process the chaos around him. Humans of all shapes, sizes, and colors moved in every direction. Some hurried, some strolled slowly. Their clothing showed no rank or position. How did they know their place in society? Where are they all going? He asked. Collins smiled. Everywhere. Work, school, shopping, meeting friends. Everyone decides for themselves. This concept troubled Zarthol deeply. In Vexarian society, daily activities were assigned based on rank and need. Freedom to choose seemed wasteful and disorganized. They stopped at a small building with large windows. A sign read Westlake Elementary School. My friend Laura teaches here, Collins explained. She's expecting us. Inside, a human female with curly red hair greeted them warmly. You must be General Zarthol. Ryan told me all about you. I'm Laura Bennett. Welcome to my classroom. She led them into a room filled with small humans. Children, Zarthol remembered they were called. Instead of showing fear at his alien appearance, they stared with open curiosity. Class, this is General Zarthol from another planet, Laura explained. He's visiting Earth to learn about us, just like we learn about new things. A small hand shot up. Do you have schools on your planet? We have training centers, Zarthol answered carefully. Young Vexarians learn what they need for their assigned roles. How do you know what they want to be when they grow up? Another child asked. The question confused him. They become what is needed. What they want is not relevant. The children looked shocked. Laura smiled gently and guided the conversation to easier topics. Zarthol watched as she encouraged the children to think, to question, to disagree politely. This was not how Vexarian young were taught. They learned to obey, not to challenge. Later, Collins took him to a place called Joe's Diner for something called lunch break. The small restaurant contained humans from every classification, Zarthol had observed. Workers in uniforms, others in formal wear, some in casual clothes. They all ate together, talked together, laughed together. On my world, different social classes never mix like this, Zarthol commented. Here, a construction worker might sit next to a lawyer, Collins replied. Both are equally welcome. As they ate, a loud noise erupted outside. Sirens wailed as red vehicles rushed past the window. Fire trucks, Collins explained. There must be a fire nearby. They stepped outside to see smoke rising from a building down the street. Humans in yellow protective gear rushed into the burning structure. Are those soldiers? Zarthol asked. Firefighters, civilians who risked their lives to save others from fires. Zarthol watched in amazement as the firefighters emerged carrying humans from the smoke. They endanger themselves for strangers. That's their job, Collins said simply. For hours afterward, Zarthol was unusually quiet. He watched humans go about their lives, helping each other, arguing with each other, ignoring each other, all by choice, not by command. That night, in his temporary quarters, Zarthol sent a message to the Vexarian Hegemony High Command. His hands trembled as he recorded the words that would change his life forever. I, General Zarthol, formally request to be relieved of duty. After 300 years of service, I am resigning my commission. I seek permission to remain on Earth as a private citizen. He paused, then added words no Vexarian had ever officially spoken. I believe we have been wrong about humans, and perhaps wrong about much more. 3 weeks after sending his resignation, Zarthol stood in his new apartment in Seattle. The Vexarian High Command had not taken his decision well. They called him a traitor, stripped him of his rank, and officially banished him from Vexarian space. But the humans had surprised him once again by granting his request for asylum. The apartment felt enormous for one person. Humans needed much more space than Vexarians, it seemed. Zarfol looked at the strange objects filling the rooms. A couch, a television, a refrigerator. Each item had been explained to him, but using them correctly was another challenge. He opened the refrigerator and stared at the food inside. Lieutenant Collins, now just Ryan, had helped him shop for things he could eat. The process of buying food in a grocery store had been overwhelming. So many choices for such a simple need as eating. A knock at the door startled him. Zarfol approached cautiously and looked through what Ryan had called a peephole. A human male in a blue uniform stood outside. Zarfol recognized the clothing as a police officer, a human who enforced rules but was not military. He opened the door. "Good morning," the officer said with a friendly smile. "I'm Officer Kevin Ramirez. I live in the building across the street and volunteered to help you get settled in. Ryan Collins asked me to check on you." Zarfol placed his upper right hand across his chest in greeting. "Your assistance is appreciated, Officer Ramirez." "Just Kevin is fine when I'm not on duty," the human said. "May I come in?" Inside, Kevin looked around the nearly empty apartment. "We should get you some more furniture. And maybe some decorations to make it feel like home." "Vexarians do not decorate living spaces," Zarfol explained. "Function is what matters." Kevin laughed. "Well, you're on Earth now. We like both function and comfort." He walked to the kitchen area. "Have you figured out how to cook yet?" Zarfol admitted he had not. On his ship, nutrition came in simple packets. The complexity of human food preparation confused him. "Let me show you how to use the microwave at least," Kevin offered. "It's the easiest way to start." For the next hour, Kevin patiently demonstrated basic cooking appliances. Zarfol watched carefully, asking questions that would have seemed ridiculous to any Vexarian adult. How to boil water. How to know when food was done. Why humans used spices that added no nutritional value. "I signed up for classes at the local learning center," Zarfol said as they finished. "Human history and Earth cultures." "That's great," Kevin replied. "Professor Sandra Miller teaches those classes. She's very good." "I must understand humans better," Zarfol explained. "Your species confuses me. You have no central direction, yet you build complex societies. You follow rules by choice rather than force. You value individual thoughts over collective unity." Kevin smiled. "That's why we're interesting. No two humans are exactly alike, and we like it that way." As Kevin left, promising to return the next day, Zarfol felt a strange sensation. For 300 years, his life had been structured by rank and duty. Each day had clear purpose and direction. Now he had to decide for himself what to do, what to learn, how to live. It was terrifying, and somehow exciting. Later that evening, as Zarfol walked to a nearby store to practice shopping, he noticed a human female taking pictures of him from across the street. When he turned to look, she quickly walked away. Back in his apartment, he turned on the television as Ryan had taught him. The screen showed his own face. A human voice spoke excitedly. "Breaking news. Former alien military leader defects to Earth. General Zarfol of the Vexarian hegemony has resigned his position and requested to live among humans. Officials confirm he has been granted temporary residency in Seattle while his case is processed. This marks the first known case of an alien choosing Earth over their home world." Zarfol turned off the device. He was now, it seemed, what humans called famous. That had not been part of his plan. 6 months had passed since Zarfol left his military life behind. His apartment now contained more human items, pictures on walls, soft blankets on furniture, even small plants that Kevin had insisted made a house feel like a home. These objects still seemed unnecessary to Zarfol, but he found their presence oddly comforting. He sat at his desk, staring at a blank screen. Professor Miller had assigned a paper on what freedom means to you. The question troubled him deeply. In his 300 years, no one had ever asked what anything meant to him personally. His opinion had never mattered, only his obedience and performance. Zarthol closed his eyes. Since coming to Earth, he had learned many practical things: how to cook simple meals, how to use public transportation, how human money worked. But understanding the human mind remained his greatest challenge. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Kevin stood at the door with 2 cups of coffee, a drink Zarthol had grown to enjoy despite its bitter taste. "You look troubled," Kevin said, handing him a cup. "I am. Lost," Zarthol admitted. "For centuries, I knew my purpose. I was a general. I commanded. I conquered. Now I am nothing." Kevin sat across from him. "You're not nothing. You're just finding a new purpose." "What purpose can I have here? I cannot join your military. I have no useful skills for civilian life." Before Kevin could answer, Zarthol's phone rang. Another new technology he had learned to use. It was Ryan Collins. "Turn on your TV," Ryan said urgently. Channel 5 News. The screen showed a terrible scene. A vehicle had crashed from a bridge into water below. People gathered at the edge, pointing and shouting. "That's 2 blocks from you," Ryan said. "Emergency services are on the way. But the car is sinking fast." Zarthol dropped the phone and ran. Outside, he sprinted toward the commotion, his Vexarian legs carrying him faster than any human could move. At the bridge, he saw the car nearly underwater, its lights still glowing beneath the surface. Without hesitation, Zarthol jumped. The cold water shocked his system, but his species had evolved from semi-aquatic ancestors. He dove deep, reaching the sinking vehicle easily. Inside, 2 humans, a female and a small child, pressed against the windows in panic. The doors were stuck. Zarthol grasped the frame with all 4 hands and pulled. Metal twisted and gave way. He pulled the humans free just as the car disappeared into deeper water. On shore, medical personnel waited. Zarthol handed over the child first, then helped the woman to land. Only then did he notice the crowd staring at him. Phones recorded his every move. "You saved them," someone said in awe. That car was sinking too fast for human divers to reach in time. Zarthol felt something strange, a warmth that had nothing to do with temperature. For the first time since coming to Earth, he had been truly useful. The next day, news reports celebrated the hero alien. Professor Miller excused him from the Freedom essay. His phone rang constantly with interview requests. Zarthol ignored them all. Instead, he called the local emergency services department. "I wish to volunteer," he told the surprised human who answered. "I have military medical training. I am stronger than humans. I can breathe underwater longer. I can see in darkness. These abilities could help in emergencies." 2 days later, Zarthol stood in a room with human emergency workers. They looked at him with curiosity and some apprehension. "This is unprecedented," the chief explained. "We've never had a non-human volunteer. But after what you did at the bridge, we'd be fools to turn you away." Zarthol received a bright yellow jacket with volunteer written across the back. It was not the decorated uniform of a Vexarian general. It carried no rank or special privilege. Yet as he put it on, Zarthol felt something he had not experienced in a very long time. Pride, not in conquest or power, but in having found a way to be useful. A purpose chosen, not assigned. 1 year after arriving on Earth, Zarthol stood before the United Nations in New York City. His yellow emergency volunteer jacket had been replaced with a formal Earth diplomatic uniform, specially made for his 4-armed body. Behind him sat Ryan Collins, Kevin Ramirez, Professor Miller, and other humans who had become what he now understood were friends. "The Vexarian fleet has entered Earth's solar system," Zarthol said to the gathered world leaders. They claim they come in peace, but I know my people. They seek to understand why 23 Vexarian citizens have now requested to join me on Earth. Murmurs filled the great hall. News of more Vexarians wanting to live on Earth had been kept secret until now. For 500 years, the hegemony has believed itself superior to all other species. Zarthol continued. We measured advancement by technology, military power, and control. By these measures, we saw humans as primitive. He looked around the room, his 4 eyes taking in the diverse human faces watching him. We were wrong, completely wrong. Humans possess strengths no Vexarian can understand until they live among you. Zarthol held up his 4 hands, counting off points. First, you choose to help each other without orders. I have seen humans risk their lives for strangers, give food to the hungry, and comfort the sad, not from duty, but from choice. Second, you question everything, even your leaders. In Vexarian society, questions show weakness. In human society, questions lead to growth. Third, you celebrate differences. Vexarians value sameness. Humans thrive because you are all unique, with different ideas and skills. Fourth, and most important, you understand something no Vexarian is taught. Freedom. The right to choose your own path makes you stronger, not weaker. The room was silent now. Even the translators seemed moved by his words. The Vexarian fleet comes to see if humans are a threat. They fear that what happened to me will happen to others, and they are right to fear this. Zarthol smiled, a human expression he had learned to use. Because truth is the greatest weapon of all. When other Vexarians learn how humans live, more will want to stay. Not because Earth is perfect, I have seen your problems and conflicts, but because Earth offers hope for growth and change. One of the human leaders stood. What do you recommend we do about the fleet approaching Earth? Welcome them, Zarthol said simply. Show them exactly what you showed me. Let them see human families, schools, art, music, and yes, your military forces too. Hide nothing. Truth is your strength. The speech was broadcast across Earth and to the approaching Vexarian ships. In the days that followed, Earth prepared to host its first official alien delegation, not led by Zarthol. On the evening before the Vexarian ships would reach Earth, Zarthol sat on a beach with Ryan, Kevin, and Laura. The sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in colors no Vexarian world could match. Are you nervous about tomorrow? Laura asked. Zarthol considered her question carefully. No. For 300 years I served the hegemony, believing we brought order to chaos. Now I understand that some chaos is necessary for life to grow. What will you do after the delegation leaves? Kevin asked. I have accepted a position as Earth's ambassador to other alien worlds, Zarthol replied. Humans need someone who understands both sides. Ryan laughed. From general to ambassador. Quite a career change. Zarthol watched the last light fade from the sky, revealing stars above, the same stars he had once traveled among as a conqueror. The strangest part, he said quietly, is that I had to leave my home to find my true place in the universe. As darkness fell completely, Zarthol felt at peace. Tomorrow, his former people would begin their own journey of discovery. Some would resist, some would fear, but some, like him, would see humans for what they truly were, not a species to conquer, but one to learn from. His new life had only just begun.